Hello, everybody. How are you guys? Hope you guys are good. All right. Let me get my stuff ready here. I just dropped the link, Julie.
Hey,
Okay. It's just
am I okay?
every-
Do you need me to put headphones on or?
no, you're fine. I just wanted to kind of let everybody know on. So, Julie,
By the way, I just called my. Oh, sorry. Are you
uh,
are you live?
yeah, I'm live.
Okay.
Julie was just over on J for J's channel, and it was kind of crazy. So I wanted to give her an opportunity to, say what she needed to say and do what do what needs to be done, I guess.
Thank you, and thank you for doing. And you know, uh, I should have hung up about 15 minutes in. Um, I had a friend who sent me a message that they were talking about me, Tim B, and Jay, talking about me in the RICO case. And I
Mhm.
did a live last night saying, Mr. Lesniak, please take me and my kids out of the RICO case because I feel like I had the longest weekend of my whole life.
Ugh.
Maybe not my whole life, but it's been a pretty damn long weekend.
How
Not a
did
good
you
week.
get in it? Do you know?
No,
Like
I
who put
don't.
you who did that?
I was stunned. I watched Mr. and Mrs. By the way, I just want to say that I cannot see the. If anybody is watching this and is in the chat, I can't see the chat, so I won't be able to respond to anybody's messages in the chat. Um,
Well,
unli-
Callie wanted to let you know that she's here.
oh, thanks. Well, she was my friend who said that they're talking about you in the RICO case, and so I uh, beat him and Jay. So I wanted to talk about the RICO case because I talked about it last night. I did a live last night, late last night, said, Mr. Lesniak, please take me and my children out of the RICO case. Two, not, oh God, I can't, the days are running into each other, but two
Yeah.
nights ago, Mr. and Mrs. E, when they did, I don't know, whatever day they came out with the papers of the emergency injunction and naming whoever was already a defendant, let's say, in that case, along with a whole bunch of other John Does, Jane
Mhm.
Doe, and it was a document of I don't know how many pages, 80 pages or more. They went through a good section of it, but pretty early on of Mr. and Mrs. Z's live, going through the um, emergency RICO injunction, uh, reading through it, they were reading through the exhibits that have been submitted as part of the new injunction.
Mhm.
And when they got to exhibit 14, right, which is supposed to be examples or evidence of this coordinated effort to intimidate, harass, bully, whatever people who are searching for Sebastian. It was an exhibit, and Mr. and Mrs. E were the first ones to say it, reading it, that it it was Granny's watching talk. I don't know whose show it was on. Granny's watching talking to Cluminati and Cletus, and they quote Granny's watching saying she needs to stop talking about all this stuff and focus on her autistic stepkids and write her book and not exploit her children or something like that.
Mhm.
Um, it was 2 paragraphs, so clearly that's not the whole 2 paragraphs. I'm paraphrasing the main points.
Right.
And
Uh-oh, I lost her. Give her a minute. She'll have to come back in. Just re-click on the link, Julie. Yeah, I don't know what happened. The whole lawsuit thing is crazy to me. Crazy that people go real life like that. Like, it's insane. Well, hello, everybody. Welcome in. Thank you guys so much for being here. Do me a favor and hit that like button for me. And if you're not already subbed to the channel, sub up. Yeah, I wanted to give her an opportunity to come up here and say what she wanted to say because, I mean, I felt, well, at least at the end, I didn't know she was on there for that long, but I thought, it was crazy. It was crazy, her being over there and the way she was being treated, in my opinion. I figured that's what was gonna happen, and I knew. I'm like, as soon as she gets down, they're just gonna be talking shit because that's what they do. I couldn't believe they wanted to talk to her about being a bully and how she's attacking the Proudfoots and this and that and the other. And like, dude, all you people do all day long is literally talk shit and bash. You talk shit about others and you bash people every day, all day. That is what they do. Let me see here. See if I can find out what happened. Hey, Kimberly. Well, see, yeah, that's why I didn't put Sebastian in the title of this video because this isn't, it. I don't like seeing other people be attacked, especially by a group of freaking just people that are just mean and rotten all the time to everybody. It's crazy. It is. It is evil. And I know. And somebody actually had the nerve to go to her. Well, I mean, do you feel bad? Do you feel bad that you've said these things about people? And um, she's like, no. And then they had the nerve, the audacity to tell her she was going to hell. Like, you fucking bunch of people are going to sit there and judge somebody else. You're going to sit there and tell this lady that she's going to hell because of things that she said. You group of people. Hey, pot, meet kettle. Let he who is without sin cast the first stone, right? But they're going to sit there and judge her for things that she said. And listen, we all have the right to our own opinion. We all have the right to our own opinions. I don't feel bad for anything I've said. If it does come out one day that they happen to be innocent and they happen to have nothing to do with this, then I will listen. Then I'll be like, okay, I was wrong. But until that happens, no, hell no. But this group of jokers is going to sit there and judge everybody. You're going to judge her, going to judge everybody else for having opinions. Is absolutely crazy. I'm like, these group of people. The biggest fucking bunch of bullies on YouTube, and they're gonna tell people. It's absolutely crazy. Well, I don't know where she went. My freaking phone is dead. Mace. May. Mason. Will you plug this in for mom? Please and thank you. Oh, here she is. She's back, guys.
I was talking, and I probably like talked for like 2 minutes, 5 minutes without
No,
not realizing I got cut off.
no, I'm
So
like, uh-oh, where'd she go?
I think someone tried to call me while I'm on here.
Oh, gotcha.
And that might have cut me off. Let me put my headphones on and tell me if it sounds better.
Okay.
Okay. Does that sound better or no?
Yeah, that's better.
Okay. Please, nobody call me. But I can't see the chat, so just so everybody
Yeah.
knows,
Yeah.
if CNY family says something to me from the chat, but I can't
Okay.
really see the chat and talk at the same time. I don't know where we left off. Where I was.
Well, you were just saying that you were talking about being in the lawsuit or whatever. But but
Yeah.
somebody did comment and they said, well, let me find it. They said Hong posted on X that they are fixing the paperwork and removing Julie and her children from the exhibits. Please tell her.
Perfect. That's all I want to know.
Yep.
Problem solved. Lovely. I
Right.
love it. Thank you. And thank you, CNY family, for having me on here. And to be able to talk about this weekend from hell. And I appreciate it. And it very well could be that they put me in there because they mistakenly assumed it was Brittany J that Granny's watching was talking to Clue and Cletus about, not me.
Oh, I
Um,
have no idea.
so be, it, but it wasn't her. It was me that they were talking about, and I'm not part of that case, and I don't want to be
Right.
in that case, and I certainly don't want mention of my children in any kind of case like that. My children
Right.
are my twins. I have 3 children. My oldest is neurotypical from my first marriage, and my twins, who I've been very honest to say, um, are not my biological children. Smiley said, inferred that I've been lying about that. It's not true. They're not my biological children. I met my husband Al when the boys were 6 years old, and I have raised them with him
Right. And you've said that.
since then. Since then, um, so yeah, I didn't want it, and I'm glad. And so that's settled. And B Tim and Jay had been talking about that, and I, my friend contacted me and said they were talking about that. So I I
So
don't
that's
know.
what made you go.
I've had a long weekend, and I made the mistake of uh dialing in or getting the StreamYard thing to join to say I don't want to be in that RICO case, and I'm glad Hong has posted that. And
Oh, right in
I'm
here.
not on X, but if somebody is on X and would like to reply on my behalf, please say thank you and issue over then.
Gotcha.
Because I just don't want me and my autistic children
Right.
in
Brought into anything.
anything. I'm Spencer. I am his legal guardian because he has a severe intellectual disability. He and my husband and I are his legal guardians. We became his legal guardians through a court of law when he turned 18,
Hmm.
which we had to go to court for. So I make the 2 of us make all decisions for Spencer. So I represent now just not only myself, but also Spencer.
Gotcha.
And, but this has been a weekend from hell
I'm sorry you've
because,
had such a rough weekend.
yeah. And it started where I felt I was, you know, staying in my own lane,
Mm-hmm.
um, on my own live, um, talking about that Sumner County Detective Carter has not been returning dozens, and I'm collecting who I've asked people to email me if they have made attempts to leave a tip by a phone line or by email where they have never received even any type of response, even received. And as you know, you can't, the voicemail only lasts, I don't know if you've ever called that tip line, but it's only, you can't leave a 10-minute voicemail.
Right.
So
I did
let's say you
actually.
have a long form tip. There's many people calling and saying, my name is so and so. Here is my phone number. I have a tip regarding this particular thing. Please call me back, because
Mm-hmm.
they can't leave the entire pieces of information. So I've been compiling a list. I also, this past week, was in touch with um, the captain, who is the captain of detectives for the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, a man named Lance Hampton, to say that these tips are not being responded to. And he was very responsive and gave me his email to, um, I did give him the tip, the one very important tip that I had. Um, and as I also gave it to TBI as well.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I wanted to make sure that I didn't just give it to TBI, that I also made sure that Sumner County had it, because I felt it was important. And he took the tip, and it was something, in my opinion, that he took very seriously and was writing it down, um, a piece of information that appeared to me that he did not know.
Mm-hmm.
And I could go and tell you what that is, but um, I don't think that they have the manpower, um, and the resources capable of handling all the tips that need to be followed up on
Right.
in
Right.
Sumner County. I know
I agree.
I have looked at their files. I have looked at their county commission meetings. Here we would call them freeholder meetings, but it's at the county level where Sumner County asked to hire a dozen more sheriff's officers, and they were. This is since Craddock has become sheriff, and they said there is not enough in the budget to hire more sheriff's officers at this time. So
Yeah.
clearly they are short staffed. Um, and whether it be that one person is overwhelmed and not sharing it, with
Yeah.
his superiors, that he is unable to handle the volume of work necessary to properly investigate, or whatever it may be.
Right.
Uh, it's important. And I think, last thing on this is that if it's not just about making arrests, to me, it's about getting a conviction. And at this point, with a case so flawed, in terms of the investigation by law enforcement from the start, and I can cite examples that
Yeah.
they're at this point and not answering tip lines. I could defend the Proudfoots and convince a jury that they can't convict beyond a reasonable doubt, because they could say something like, listen, we have evidence of 24 people who had legitimate tips of the quote unquote real abductors, and
Yeah.
they were never even responded to nor investigated. So how do you even know what's out there? Therefore, there is reasonable doubt.
Right.
Um, and that is my concern. my
Right.
concern about the ability of Sumner County to and get a conviction in the case.
Yeah.
I don't say that they're not investigating it,
Yeah, I
but
don't think there's anything wrong with questioning the
right.
police or anything like that. I mean, clearly there's, clearly we see that there's things that they just can't, like you said, they don't have the manpower, whatever the reason is, things weren't done correctly. But I don't want to cut you off, but I do want to say that there's a Selena Dixon is in the chat, and she said that she was blocked from your blocked from your channel. Um, and she's not sure why, because she said she's never done anything or said anything. But I know you
So
said you had a
I
problem
had,
with mods.
yeah. So I do want to say this. The where this started with the let me just write her name down. Selena with a C.
Yep, Selena Dixon.
Okay. At the start of this weekend, where I had the live about um, Sumner County and Detective Carter
Mm-hmm.
and Justin and Smiley and a number of other people came into my live on this subject in an unfriendly way with a number of people. And you know how you see a spike, like you could have like 200 people listening to your live, and all of a sudden you
Yeah.
have 600 people. Okay, it was, and they want to tell me I'm crazy, that it was just a coincidence. They all were just interested at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Um, uh, Came in my live, and what started happening in that live, and then in the day subsequent to that, I realized that I had a big problem with my mods, that many of them were also Justin's mods, who were just somebody, I don't know who, I haven't identified who, were just blocking people without permission and
Right.
unsubscribing and doing all kinds of stuff. So there were a bunch of people who were blocked. And what I ended up doing is I have since deleted every mod I had. And last night I started over adding new mods who were in my live last night, which was about the Rico case, essentially. And then I also talked about what else happened. So there were there were basically, like, just trying to put it together in my mind. I was on a daytime live talking about, and on my channel, talking about Sumner County Sheriff's Department and uh, oh, and this one woman named Ragstalk, who was on TikTok, a regular panelist from Barbecue Lady, who was in the
Oh,
Rico case.
don't even get me started
And
on that lady.
and she says this woman Ragstalk's boyfriend, she identified him as her boyfriend, is a Sumner County sheriff's officer. And they had, somebody on X had screen recorded a couple of the lives, although I had been aware of her before, and some of the things she said, this woman Ragstock, they had screen recorded, because the lives on TikTok go away, right? It's not like here where they stay and you could watch them. That she was going to make sure that nobody in Sumner County Sheriff's Office ever talks to Seth and Tony again. And this was at the time of the first vigil where Bullhorn Betty was arrested. And she was saying she was going to make sure that nobody talked to them anymore. And for months afterwards, that's in fact what happened. They didn't talk to Seth and Tony for a long time. And she also said that she might just have to go to that vigil, like in a hostile way. She was talking,
Mm-hmm.
and she also said that Seth is lying because he's saying there's video after midnight. And she says there is no video after midnight on what would be the 26th of
Right.
February. And I found that really disturbing. And on the same live I did about playing your wonderful live, talking about Dolly's Turtle
Oh, yeah.
Island, which I, on my live, I called it Repulsive Island,
Yeah.
and what they were allowing and how you pointed out. And I just played what you said about it and said I am in agreement that, you know, hosting a live and entertaining people calling in and saying such horrific things about Sebastian,
Yeah.
this woman Judy from Florida, that one,
Yep.
um, it was awful and terrible. And it was part of that live that I ended up talking about this rags talk. Um, and after that, um, okay, so I had that live, and Justin and Smiley got blocked pretty quick into the live because she came in hostile and threatening, and one of my good mods rightfully blocked her for saying something threatening about kicking my ass or
Who
something
did?
like
I'm
that.
sorry. Who?
Smiley's World.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
So I have rules to my channel. You can't say things like I'm going to kick the
Right.
host's ass. Um, and um, they came in a provocative way. The other thing is I had also been questioning strategies um, and things about Tony Mathis. You know, this is before the emergency injunction. You know, why are they in Pennsylvania with this lawsuit against Barbecue Lady and Granny's Watching? You know, because is that the best way to be spending the time and energy and efforts in order
Right.
to find Sebastian? Now, this is before the big one that they just did this weekend. Um, but um, and then after my live, Justin and Smiley's World separately did their own lives playing me and talking about me.
Yeah.
And the comments in those things were really horrific. And horrific, I don't want to be dramatic. They were bullying, very bullying
Right.
comments. And Smiley herself was being bullying. I mean, she
Yeah.
even talked about my children and stuff like that. I mean, really bad stuff.
That's
Uh,
crazy.
but you know, I was really upset with Justin. And um, when he came in my live and was saying things like, Julie, it's not some big conspiracy, I felt that was, he made fun of the fact that I said he was being provocative in this initial comments, meaning he was trying to provoke something. That's what I
Right.
meant.
Right.
Okay, he tried to twist it and say, "Ooh, I'm provocative," you know, make fun of it. The fact to say, saying he was trying to provoke a response from me. It's not
Mhm.
some big conspiracy, Julie. Um, it's not a pleasant way to phrase a question if it wasn't even a question. Um, and so I started to ask him questions, and I said, you know, if you were his sex advisor, would you advise him that, you know, being in a courtroom in Pennsylvania would be the best way to try to find your son? You know, spend your
Right.
time and efforts and energy. And also, you say, Justin says we should trust law enforcement, and this sort of toxic positivity I've been talking about with regard to law enforcement since December 7th, which was Sebastian's 16th birthday. They had a meeting with Seth and Tony. Prior to that, they had not talked to Seth and Tony, and Seth and Tony themselves were very critical of law enforcement, calling for the FBI to come in and things like that. Then, right after that meeting, Seth said, I have a renewed faith in law enforcement, and um, I trust them and everything like that. Well, you know, if you, it sort of became apparent that if you question law enforcement in Sumner County after that fact, after they had this turnaround relationship, uh, and continued to question them, uh, not just what they did since then, but it, their ability to get a conviction, okay,
Mhm.
given all the mistakes that have been made
Right.
and their unusual actions, that you were somehow, I don't know, disloyal, wrong, not on
Right, which is crazy.
Sebastian's team,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and this is what prompted this cavalry to come in and attack me. Um,
Gotcha.
I think, and also questioning Tony in that. Is he give is Seth getting the best advice about not having an attorney with him when he's not been cleared, as a parent, and having, you know, Sam's attorney many meetings with law enforcement. I know you feel like you trust him, but it's you haven't been cleared, okay?
Mhm.
And is that the best advice? And I'm asking Justin, is that what you would tell, if you were his advisor? Would you say, you can still give them all the evidence that you have, turn over the CPS records, turn over the counselor um, notes that Sebastian had been seeing a counselor,
Mhm.
um, but not have meetings with law enforcement without an attorney when you haven't been cleared. Um, and basically, I said to Justin, you say we should trust law enforcement. Why should we trust just because you say trust?
Right.
And he said that was a low blow to him.
Gotcha.
Um, and that's what after that, and probably other things. Although I think I held it together, in my opinion, pretty well, considered I was pretty overwhelmed at that moment. It was more people in there than my mods could handle. And then it turned out I had these kind of rogue
Right.
mods who were, in fact, on Justin's side and just blocking people who were not to be blocked.
Right.
Um, Maybe
Which
somebody saying something supportive of me or something like that. Um,
yeah.
so it it was it was really upsetting. And the next day, I didn't do any lives the whole day. I was just upset and disturbed by everything. And then late that oh yeah, so that was the, let's call it, yeah, Friday. That was Friday, right? Where I did the live where everybody came in my live. And then
Mhm.
that Friday afterwards, Justin and Smiley did their own lives
About you.
attacking me about me and allowing people to say really not mean things, even though
Yeah.
Justin says he doesn't get involved in the drama, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and then on Saturday, the entire day, I didn't do any live at all. And I couldn't even fall asleep. I was so upset.
Wow.
And it was after midnight, I think. And I just like went on YouTube and I saw that Josh the Lab was on, somebody I've never spoken to before, and was having a live and playing my video, playing my live.
Mhm.
And people were in the chat commenting on it, and they were talking about me, analyzing it, and saying really unflattering things about me. So I went into the chat and asked Josh, can I call in? And Josh the Lab was uh, respectful and gracious to give me a link to call in. When
Uh-huh.
I called in, Josh and I spoke. I couldn't see the chat at the moment when I was there. And I thought it went well, I think I was able to explain myself, and Josh was very respectful and
Mhm.
got to know me. At the end, he said, I really don't think that Julie is evil. I don't know, but she doesn't seem like she's not evil. There's a real lot of evil people on here. She's not evil, which I was like, afterwards, I'm like, I said, appreciate you saying I'm not evil. I don't know if that's necessarily a compliment, but at least I'm not evil. Um,
Right.
um, and but when I got off the phone, and I had paused the live, and I was able to read the chat that was going on while I was speaking, and saw that, again, Smiley, Justin, and Tony were in that live saying bullying things about me. In
Yeah.
fact, Smiley paid $49.99 for a super chat to say something that was too nasty about me. I could hear Josh say, I saw it afterwards, but Josh, I did hear while I was on the phone, Josh say, Smiley, I can't read that. um,
Yeah. I mean,
and
well,
then that was upsetting to see that. And then I didn't do a live. Then I didn't do a live all day after that. Yeah, yesterday until late, where I said to Lesniak, please take me off the thing. I saw Mr. and Mrs. E's live about me being in the RICO case. That upset me. And then I did the live about that. And I showed some of the chat just with the parts with Justin and Tony and all their comments and being really mean about me and not nice, really, really
yeah.
not nice. And I showed it, and the Justin had people in there. He's not responsible for what other people say, but I felt, in my opinion, he was engaging with the people who were saying really bad stuff about me and making smiley faces and laughing emojis, which I felt was kind of encouraging this shit, encouraging people who were saying bad stuff.
Honestly,
Uh,
that's why I don't join other people. You know what I mean? Like I stick to myself. I'm not a part of
right.
any team. I don't because it is just like high school and it's
It
crazy.
is. It is. And I, this is the thing. Like, I was in my own lane. I'm with you. I do my thing. I draw my own conclusions. I'm independent. You're independent. And they didn't like what I was saying. They came in my chat and I defended myself and questioned what they were saying, um, and challenged them saying things to me like, it's not some big conspiracy. And I was saying, yeah, but the case is compromised. I could be the defense attorney at this point and create reasonable doubt in the jury's mind for the Proudfoots. Um, but um, they came in to attack me, and that's what happened. And I was upset because it's like, I'm allowed to have my own opinions. So, I'm allowed to
Yeah.
disagree with you, and I'm allowed to question things. And I don't understand. There are things that, I'm not talking about Seth. Seth is a victim. Seth is in the worst position you could possibly be in. Now, Seth issued a statement after I talked about this stuff about Tony and saying, I don't understand, like what the strategy is here. What is this, like there's a lot of people who want to help. There's a lot of people who are frustrated. I'm not the only person with the lack of information, the slow pace, the um, the trust, narrative of with Carter. And then we have the anniversary of 1 year Sebastian's been missing right before it, and you have the sheriff and the DA and stuff giving statements to Nick Barris, the reporter, saying there is no it's not a criminal investigation, and there's no evidence of foul play, and which was like really hurtful and contrary to the email that Justin had received from Carter saying it is a criminal investigation. His boss is now saying it's not a criminal investigation. So I'm like, are they stringing them along? Why are they getting contradicting information. Carter saying one thing, and then his boss right before the vigil saying something completely different. And Sheriff Craddock didn't go to the vigil. So um, it feels like, you know, it feels like if, I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say. It feels like uh, Tony is, I showed his, what he was saying about it to me in Josh the Lab's live. And you
Hmm.
can go back and watch my live from last night. I mean, he hates my guts. It's quite clear.
I
And
don't know.
I
I
understand
don't know that person at all. I don't watch.
Tony Mathis is the,
Oh, Tony. I thought you were talking about some other
oh, no,
creator.
no, Josh the Lab. I was talking to Josh the Lab, but Tony, Smiley, and Justin were in the chat of
Yeah.
Josh the Lab, and they were commenting throughout me speaking.
Yeah.
And Tony was saying things like, "You brought this on yourself. You poked the bear. Um, oh, you're all tough and now you're crying." Like really mean shit.
Hmm.
I don't know.
I've learned to ignore people,
I
I
have,
mean, because you have to. People will say, people talk shit and people are, it's not going to stop. They're going to continue to do it
right. And
forever.
I
So,
have. I mean, look, I get cartoons made about me. I get hate channels running my lives.
yeah.
I get attacked. I get clip channels, all kinds of stuff. I don't talk about any of it because it's their opinion. You
Yeah.
know, I just ignore it all. I don't talk about them. I don't give them the attention they deserve, the attention they don't deserve. And I just ignore it all. I have been, talk about bullying and this, what's being, they're talking about in this Rico case. I have faced it, since I came on. I have faced a disproportionate amount of hate. And it has to do a little bit with my personality, my, you know, saying being very direct about how I feel, not
Hmm.
taking people's instructions. I wouldn't take my petition down about nonfeasance. Asking the DA to investigate nonfeasance in the sheriff's department for failure to enforce child abuse laws in the Sebastian Rogers case, and which was a demand of Tony that I take it down. And I wouldn't. I said I'd take Sebastian's name off it, his picture off of it, and reference to Sebastian, which I did. But I won't take it down because this is an issue I care deeply about,
Hmm.
the abuse of preventing the abuse.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I literally just made a video yesterday about how, everybody this is, you know, like we were all in this for Sebastian's case. And whether it be, whether you think the Proudfoots have something to do with it, or whether you think Seth has something to do with it, or whether you think he just walked out the front door. I mean, everybody is taking it real life on everybody else. And I think it's
Yeah,
absolutely insane to me
it
because
is.
Sebastian is lost in it all.
It is. And, you know, I thought it was important to come to YouTube to talk about this case through the lens of autism as an autism parent because there was so much misinformation about autistic kids and Sebastian himself. And, I mean, people thought in the beginning, he would be a kid who is intellectually disabled who would jump in a freezing cold lake because he doesn't know what safety is, and
Mhm,
that's not true. He doesn't have a severe intellectual disability. And I feel like I bring a besides the fact that I was a special education teacher, I do autism education, and I've been talking for 2 years on TikTok with over 70,000 followers on TikTok of all autism parents or autism grandparents or teachers of people who work with autistic people.
mhm.
Um, uh, to say, you know, here, you're getting this stuff wrong. You don't understand. Like, there's autism with intellectual disabilities, and there's autism without intellectual disabilities. You could have learning processing issues without an intellectual disability, you know, and you could have problems with, um, emotional regulation, dysregulation. You could have focusing problems. You could have difficulty interacting socially, and a whole bunch of things associated with autism. I did want to tell you, I know in your live, you mentioned you didn't know that Sebastian was diagnosed at 14. He was actually diagnosed approximately a year and a half
Yeah,
before he
no, I
went
did not know
missing.
that.
Yeah, so it was not just a 14, it was a year and a half before he went missing. And so I guess he was 14. But I did want to mention to you that uh, to get an official autism diagnosis, there's only so many professions that can give an official diagnosis, right? A teacher, a guidance counselor at school cannot give an official diagnosis. Even a
Right.
pediatrician can't. You have to go to a pediatric developmental specialist or a pediatric neurologist or a psychiatrist, like a medical doctor, in order to get an an official autism diagnosis, one that would, for example, allow you, when you become an adult, to collect disability or to be eligible for certain services as a child through the state, um, like certain therapies, right, that are subsidized by the state for
Hmm.
autistic kids. And the waiting lists to get the official diagnosis, especially in cities like Nashville, things like that, can be 6 months to a year. That's how many people are, you
Yeah.
know, making appointments. So, and when your child is diagnosed at a later age, they usually want to see some documentation. So that would come from, let's say, IEPs, individualized education programs, letters from teachers, or things like that. So there could be a gathering of information um, for, let's say, up to a year prior to the official diagnosis. So if he was diagnosed at 14, my guess is the suspicion of autism happened at least 1 year prior to get the information together, and it could have been at the suggestion of his special education teachers. We know Sebastian was in special education at the middle school level. They have done interviews with his special education teachers
Uh-huh.
when he was in middle school. So he already had an IEP. He was
Well,
already
because he had
classified.
the chromosomal deletion.
Exactly. And some things with that chromosomal deletion syndrome can mimic symptoms of autism. So I'm only guessing here, but I think certain things that he displayed, his parents, um, through, and his teachers assumed it was due to his chromosomal deletion syndrome, not necessarily autism. So some things that were probably autism related, they thought, oh, well, he's doing this because of this other disability,
Mhm.
not knowing and not suspecting it was autism. The last thing I want to say about this, with what you were saying about his late diagnosis, is level one autistic kids, which is what I would say Sebastian is like level one. You have level one, level two, level three, although it can fluctuate, right? His
Right.
regression in toileting would make him higher support needs, which would probably drop him to a level two. But the cause of that is, obviously suspect. But the being level one, meaning without severe intellectual disabilities. Um, I know this from my own level one child. There were times when he was young. So with Spencer, he wasn't talking. At 6 years old, he didn't even have four words. Obviously, he was he was obviously autistic. When they're severe and have severe intellectual disabilities, it's obvious from the time they're little.
Yeah.
But when you're level one, right? Like Elon Musk, he's autistic. Okay, can you imagine? You know, that somebody could be really intelligent and be autistic.
Oh, yes,
So
sure, for
so
sure.
it doesn't become as pronounced. The symptoms of autism at a for a level 1 child don't become as pronounced really a lot of times until you get into late elementary school or middle school, that you sort of realize that your child is not progressing the same way as their peers. Because when kids are little, who are, neurotypical or autistic. You see the boys, they're all running around with their shoes untied and hyperactive and talking
Yeah,
about Pokemon and, Minecraft and things like that, right? They're
yep,
7, 8, 9, 10. They're all doing the same thing. It's when they hit middle school and their social interactions start to develop and your child's aren't developing at the same rate as their neurotypical peers, right? They're
mhm,
still interested in talking about Pokemon and Minecraft, where their peers are like, let's have a party and talk about girls and, that kind of thing. Let's get into sports and you know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
so sometimes it's not as obvious and there were times since I met Al with my level 1 son, who I knew he had already been diagnosed as autistic. And I believe that he was only diagnosed as autistic as early as he was is because his twin brother was profound and they were diagnosed at the same appointment with the same doctor. I say to myself, if Spencer hadn't been profound, I don't know that his twin brother would have gotten the diagnosis as early as he did, because there were points when I met them and he was like 7 years old, 8 years old, and he's so smart and he's so funny and quick and stuff like that. I even said to Al at points, I was like, I don't, I'm not really sure that he really even is autistic. I literally said that. There were times where I would like questioning, is he in fact autistic? He's so bright, he's so he has so many talents. He's so funny. And but when he hit middle school and he was still doing a lot of the things that he was doing earlier on, and his stims, level 1 autistic kids stim, and Katie has talked about Sebastian's stims, playing with coins. My level 1 child does the same thing. He always has a coin or something like that in his hand or little something in his hand, a piece of paper. It's a stim, but it's subtle. It's not like Spencer flapping his hands like by his head,
uh-huh,
That's very obvious. A kid with a coin touching a coin in his pocket, you don't see it, but it is a stim. It's something to help them regulate themselves. It gives them comfort, but they're not as obvious. So it's not unusual, is what I want to tell you. It's not unusual for a level 1 child to be not to get a diagnosis until middle school age. That's not unusual
gotcha,
because it's not as obvious until their peers start moving on. If you know, talk about high support needs. Spencer needs help with, you know, everything, shampooing his hair, you know, um, he can't cook a meal for himself on the stove. He can't, there's a lot of things. He wasn't able to fully dress himself without help until, he was probably like 13 years old or 12 years old working with therapists.
mhm,
But his brother dressed himself, Um, but with uh, the high support needs, you know what? I just lost my train of thought. Sorry.
it's okay,
But it's just saying, like, with high support needs, it's very obvious, and um, they need help with every little aspect of things. And I wanted to come on and say, even the way they search for Sebastian, if someone had put him in a lake, obviously it's appropriate to search in lakes. But the idea that Sebastian wouldn't know not to jump into a lake when it's freezing cold outside, that's
mhm,
that's not true. He would know that he would freeze, you know. He might like swimming, but he is has a sense of danger. Unlike
I don't.
my level 1 son, my profound son, who would walk into traffic. He wouldn't
Yeah.
even look.
There's a bunch of people in the chat that want me to tell you that it's been clarified that the Tony Fire person is not Tony Mathis. The person that was in Josh's chat was a different Tony. It's a stock account. It's not Tony Mathis. So I don't. For what it's worth, that everybody wanted me
Well,
to tell you
I
that.
will say this. Josh was referring to Tony in, as far as I could hear, in the chat and talking to him as if it was Tony Mathis. And Seth was there as well. So I know what people are saying, that it's not him, but I would suggest that they go back and listen again. And also read the comments of Tony Fire, because it was, he was talking to somebody who's Tony in a way that sounded like he was affiliated with Seth.
Gotcha.
So,
See, I don't know anything about it. I just wanted to pass that
so
along.
I know that it's a different name than he normally uses, which is Tony Mathis. But my interpretation from the way Josh was speaking to this Tony, addressing this Tony, connecting him with the case, and the comments that he was making, led me to believe that it is in fact Tony Mathis. So maybe I'm wrong, but I think he has a separate account that's Tony Fire, and um, for a reason. Maybe he wants to say things as Tony Fire that he doesn't, but the way Josh was addressing him
Gotcha.
indicated to me that it was. So I guess I'll just put a question mark there. I won't say it as fact. It's what I suspect.
Okay. Gotcha. Gotcha. Yeah, I think I don't know. But it's crazy. I think no matter what you say, no matter what you do, there's always going to be people that dislike it. There's always going to be people that disagree. And it's just like high school. If you don't like what somebody says, then all them and all their friends are going to come at you. And that's,
Yeah.
it is what it is. And I just wanted you to, like, I felt bad because I was like, damn, like
Yeah,
I felt like
it was
you're
hard, and I didn't know what to do. I really hadn't been in this position so much because I'm like you. It I'm attacked on the daily on hate channels, um, playing my stuff, making videos of me, clipping me, making cartoons, attacking me. I've been attacked on X. I've been attacked by SF, um, and for the most part, you know, you have to realize how much I ignore things. How much I
Mhm.
don't speak about the things that I know are happening, but I just don't talk about it, because I don't want to give them the time of day for it. And I just have to ignore it because it's just people's opinions.
Right. Yep.
But this was different because all of a sudden, people who were, you know, fighting for Sebastian and Seth and supportive of Seth and Sebastian, like Smiley's World, are coming
Mhm.
in saying, "I'm going to kick her ass." I mean, like
Yeah,
what?
it's crazy.
I'm like, that was shocking to me. This is not a a Proudfoot apologist hate channel. This is Smiley's World saying, "I'm going to do this, do that," and talking
Yeah.
about my kids. I
But
mean,
that's exactly what I'm saying. That's why I learned long ago when I did the Kylie case. I
mhm.
I learned long ago because that the same exact shit happened to me. Like people that I thought, I would say something and then all of a sudden I was getting it from every angle. And it was finally like
Even
my
people you
husband.
thought were on the same side.
Right, right. And then my husband was like, "Oh my god, babe." He's like, "You need to just make your videos and shut that shit off." because this
Yeah.
is what a lot of these people spend their entire day on here, just trying to attack people, go after people. And listen, it
Right.
is what
But
it
these
is.
were coming
But
from people that never did that before. To
right.
not just to
Well,
me, but to
that's what
really
I'm saying.
anybody.
That's all it takes, though. And Brianna's World says it's all a distraction that takes away from Sebastian's case. And a lot of time I do
I
think that.
agree.
Like, I think that this shit gets done purposefully. So your attention is now on them instead of, you know what I'm saying? Like,
But you know what I mean? Like it's not from the usual places.
oh, I get it. Right. I understand what you're saying.
The where when it comes from the usual places, I think I've done a pretty good job of trying to
Yeah. No, I
ignore as
get
much
it.
as possible. It was
And
just
I
when
think,
and it came to me. And at the same time, I realized I have these mods who were deleting people from my account and
yeah.
from my subscriber list or in the chats hiding people. I was like, I just felt like
No, I totally understand. And I think what really got to you, because like you said, you get hate from one side all the time. But when you're getting it from some people that you thought were, your, I want to say friends, but you know what I
they
mean.
weren't my friend. They weren't my friend, but they were certainly not ever attacking one
Right.
another
So
like us.
when you started getting it from that, I totally understand where you're coming from. I just, be
And I tried to defend myself, and you
and
know,
you don't
I
even
feel
gotta.
like I made it worse. I mean, I
Yeah.
probably did.
That's what I was trying to say to you earlier was that, I went through the Kylie Rodney case. I was on it for 2 years, and I constantly felt like I was defending myself all the time until one day I was like, "You know what? I'm like these fucking people ain't nobody. I don't have to defend myself to them. I don't owe them an explanation for anything. I'm going to say what I want to say, and that's all there is to it. Whether they like it or not, it is what it is cuz I'm not here for you. I'm not here
Right.
for them. You know what I'm saying? So I just think, just wanted to let you know that and say that to you because
Yeah.
it's never gonna stop. And the more you feed the fire, the more they'll just come after you for.
Yeah.
So I
And
think you need I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just saying I think that it's best to just act like they don't exist and keep on Sebastian like you have been, in my opinion. Did I lose you? Oh, she's muted. I don't know what happened. Oh, I lost her. But do you guys know what I'm saying? Like, I wasn't trying to be mean or disrespectful or anything. I'm just trying to help her because I went through all this. That's why it's best to just not get involved with anybody, any side, any team, anything. Because the second you say something, it will be held against you. Hope she's not upset or anything. I was just trying to be helpful. Let me see what some of you guys got going on over here. Oh, okay. Let me drop it in here.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay.
I tried to plug in because I think my phone was going to die. Oh, I see. Brianna says it's a distraction, takes away from Sebastian's case. I see you put that up.
Yeah, that's the one I was reading.
Oh, so I made some mistake, and then I stupidly called into, not called into, but went into when I heard from a friend that they were talking about the Rico case and everything. Uh,
Yeah,
and B Tim was talking about it, and I wanted them to know that I'm not in that case. And they, did their usual thing where they bring in everybody to whatever, and they say, "Don't you feel bad that Kate, you said this and that about Katie and SF?" But I don't.
yeah.
They,
And I
uh,
thought you stood your ground well at the end there because and I'm like, how, dude, they don't even know either. We don't know what happened to Sebastian. So you know, our opinions, your opinion is what it is. They
right.
can't tell
I
you you're
said
wrong.
several times, I said, you want me to disprove a negative, I mean, uh, you don't know. They're saying you don't have any evidence that they did. I say, yeah, and you don't have any evidence they didn't. You know what I mean? Like it,
Mm,
it's you're asking me to do something that you're unwilling to do, and you're biased. And don't you think now, Julie, now that you hear us, that you feel bad about saying all these horrible things
mhm.
about Katie and this? And I said, well, I think, you have bias, Klumanani and Cletus, because you're friends with the Proudfoots. And they said, no, it's not. We're friends. It's that whatever. They didn't,
Yeah.
they seemed to kind of downplay that. And, you know, um, but I was trying to be polite, let them say this, but I said, at various points, I said, you're lecturing me. Also, this constant threat of threats, like, what you did is illegal and you're going to be sued. And it's like, at some point I just finally said, I was like, okay, well, whatever, I'm prepared. If you don't stop threatening me, if someone's going to sue me, stop hanging this, you're going to be
Well,
sued.
it's
Go
it's just
ahead.
it's just to get you to stop talking, though. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's all of it. That's all that it is.
Yeah.
And you're very, you have every right to have the opinions that you have. And I, for one, d- I for one will stand here and I will stand on the ground and say, listen, they are suspect as shit. And
Right.
I don't feel bad for saying any of that. She's like, well,
No.
don't you feel bad that what if Katie, Katie's watching this and she's crying? Katie
Right.
should be crying. And you know what? Not for nothing. But if the roles were reversed and if Sebastian went missing under Seth's watch, under Seth's care, I would be treating him the same fucking way that I treat
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
And
And
so wouldn't she. So wouldn't
and
Katie.
yeah, and I said, like, no, they got mad that I said no. One thing I did learn, which is why I think SF is so enraged about me showing people where the website is to file a citizen's complaint about a PI, because there are regulations and guidelines on it. She's like, they said, wouldn't you feel that 50 people, I think they said 50, uh, filed complaints. So actually, I learned something, and I was like, good. I'm glad that that happened, because he has. And I brought up the idea of, Bobby, the neighbor. Uh, he's not supposed to be. Um, if he learned something in his um, work as a PI that would lead him to believe somebody is involved, that's not something he's supposed to go on X or on somebody's channel and accuse people of. That
Yeah.
is literally against the guidelines of
I'm
being
with
a
you.
PI.
I am with you on SF. I mean, I have, I have interviewed him. I have talked to him, during the Kylie Rodney case, and he does not act in a professional manner. I don't care what anybody says. What kind of PI do you know that's on X all the time, just running his mouth?
Yeah. And really, I mean, he said many things about me that are, I mean, really talk about defamation. I mean, he has
I,
defamed me,
I mean, you,
um, and doxed me, and doxed me is putting my husband's last name. Okay, I go by my maiden name, which is also my professional name. It's the name I use as an author, um, and things, but I don't use my husband's last name. And just yesterday, which is the same last name as my children, okay, I don't use their last name. But just yesterday, he made a post on X with my first name, my legal maiden name, which I use as in work, okay, and my husband's last name, which is the last name of my children. So I do try to protect my children,
mhm,
um, and my, you know, privacy to certain extents. I'm not putting my address out there. I'm not using my children's last name. I'm using my maiden name, which is my professional name, to protect my kids and my family. And he put
yeah,
my full legal name out there yesterday. That's not nice. That's not right. That's not right. That was intentional to, you know, to say, here's the last name of Julie's husband and her children,
mm,
which is not my last.
yeah,
They, I mean, I met the boys when they were 6. They have a different last name than me. Um, and I've always kept my name. I had a career prior to my second marriage. This is my second marriage. And I've always kept this name. Um, Although legally, I do have a hyphenated last name. So, you know what I mean? Like when you
yeah,
talk about a legal name versus a business name, right?
mhm,
SF Investigates or the CNY family or something like that, right? I go by Julie Scholl because I am an author. I have to have a name on my book when it's coming out.
mhm,
Uh, and it is my name. But I do try to do some protections for my children, and that was wrong to put my children's last name out yesterday by SF.
mhm,
It's it upsets me.
yeah. No, you're entitled to everything that you think, and people aren't gonna like it, and that's just the way that it is. It
And
is
and
what
it,
it
it
is.
was purposeful. That was purposeful. It was a purposeful way of attacking
Yeah,
me. Maybe others didn't pick up on it, but I did,
yeah, yeah,
to make me feel more vulnerable.
right. It's crazy. I don't know.
And I made a mistake going on the thing, and I've been just.
Yeah, I mean, you I, listen, but now
I mean,
you.
I'm unique in the sense that I'm not a true crime creator. I'm currently writing a book that is, you know, definitely in the true crime genre and mafia history, um, because I have a family member who is I think I told you this. I have a family member who was on Lucky Luciano's commission, a famous Jewish gangster from the 20s, 30s, and 40s. It is true crime, and I uncovered a unsolved uh, murder cover up from the time period that's part of my book. So it is firmly in the true crime world, and I know that I will be going forward, doing more stuff with that in the true crime world. But
Mhm,
I'm also an autism parent, and uh, this was the only case I was covering. Um, Only recently I do a little bit of investigation into the torso killer and the
yeah,
false confessions, but it's not really my thing. But it's I'm just and I'm an emotional person, and I'm a self-confessed crier.
mhm,
um, and I said, if you're a man or if you're, you know, under 50 years old and haven't been through menopause, Really shouldn't talk about women crying because
Mm.
it happens, when you kind of go through this time. And also, I'm going through a personal um, crisis that I do share. I share my life, which is different than most true crime creators because I'm not a true crime creator, because when I
Right.
talk about autism and education, I am talking about my children. And I also firmly believe that I have that that there's a lot of people who try to shame parents of autistic kids not to anything that we show of our children, they label as exploitation. And I say, no, we have a right to be proud and show our kids like anybody else. I mean, it's it's about awareness, and I love my kids and I'm proud of them. And they are lovable kids. Spencer has he's I don't know if you've ever watched the videos I put out of him on my
Hmm.
shorts, but he's he's amazing. And people who follow me, learn to see him as a whole individual and not, you know, a one-dimensional person only identified by his disability, but as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, look at what
And
people have said about Sebastian himself, you know?
right,
It's
right,
crazy.
exactly. Yeah, and there's so much misinformation about autism, and it's really disheartening, like the things that people will say. It makes it a more dangerous world for autistic individuals when you
Mhm.
start saying things like, you know, autistic kids, will just expose themselves or stuff like that. It's not true. I mean, Spencer, who is profoundly autistic, he has intellectual disabilities. Al and I were very strict from the beginning when he would not know what's appropriate. If ever he did something um, in a public space or even in a common area of the house, let's say, even just scratch himself, okay? Right? And he doesn't know not to scratch himself the way you're supposed
Mhm.
to privately do it, right? We would immediately direct him to his room, not shame him, not embarrass him, not say anything he does is wrong. Say, here, you do that here in your room. This is the time and place. This is where you go. And it takes teaching for kids with intellectual disabilities, but they are capable of learning. And Spencer has never, he's profoundly autistic, never exposed himself, never, that's just a lie, if you would say that a kid would do that in a he doesn't even think of things in that way. It's like
Yeah.
I have an itch or this clothing is uncomfortable or something like that.
Right.
It's not show himself to girls like this horrible woman from Dolly's World called in, or Dolly's
Yeah.
Live. It's not right, and they're not predators. It's just not true. In fact, he's a victim of SA,
Yeah.
and to use that against him is despicable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, you've been a very good friend to me, and I want to thank you, Kristen, so much for everything.
Well, you're welcome. I just, I just want to try to help in any way. I'm a helpful person.
Yeah, I'm sure I did, you know, make a mistake, and I tried to keep calm while I was on um, a situation that I put myself in today.
Yeah.
Uh, but uh, I should have known better, and that they were gonna bring in person after person, and I couldn't see the chat. I couldn't see who I was talking to. At one point, they brought in a woman, Crimson Tide, UA Crimson Tide, and I said, I just hear another voice, and I said, "Wait, who is this? I can't see that there's another person in the chat. I just heard a different voice." And I said, "No, I don't want to talk to this person." But even when I said I didn't want to talk to Cletus, they didn't take him off the line. I should have hung up then. I said I prefer to talk to Cluminati than Cletus,
Hmm.
uh, because it's just it was just kind of like ganging up and
Yeah.
trying to
You,
keep
yeah.
my cool and stand my ground and uh, let them talk.
Yeah. You gotta have a,
There was a lot of lecturing of me, and I just let them talk. Doesn't mean I was agreeing with them when they were talking. I was not
yeah.
agreeing with them. I was just letting them go and say whatever they were going to say. And when I finally got the chance to talk, I would be able to say, "Well, no."
Yeah. And I've learned over the last few years being on YouTube that, you really gotta, I had to thicken my skin
Yeah,
because people
and
hurt people. And that's just what it is.
yeah, um,
Misery loves
it's just
company.
it's so. I did find this on. Now, I hope I don't cut myself off. I'm going to plug in. Okay, if I cut myself off, just um, I hope I don't.
Yeah.
Just drop the thing again because I do have to plug in.
Well, I only have a few more minutes and then we gotta school. So,
Okay, I did think I did it successfully without it.
okay.
All right, so yeah, I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to talk about this, and for I'm sure they're replaying the Jay for Justice or Every Day with Jay live and tearing me apart.
Hmm.
But
Honestly, the best
and
thing
I'll
is
be torn
ignore
apart
it
by
all.
look. Uh, I mean, it was just it was an emotional weekend because there were people who I befriended,
Yeah.
who turned out to be um, not really friends and um, doing things that were hurtful um, in my
Yeah.
chat and deleting people and uh, it's you
Yeah.
think
There's
you think you're wise to it. You can tell the difference between somebody who's trying to manipulate you and someone who's not, but
some
you
people are very
you
good at
still
what they
can.
do.
You still can, and sometimes you judge. I mean, I just had this morning somebody who said to me, who I talked to many, many, many times, and was my friend, and said, when in my chat yesterday, said something that was, and was also on, and I read her comments on Josh's live that were, I was surprised, really shocked by, and uh, I blocked her. And she sent a text this morning. She's suing me, and I was like, oh, it's just like it's been a lot this weekend.
Yeah. No, if it sounds like you've been through it this weekend. So, and I'm sorry for that. I do want to say my grandma used to tell me this all the time growing up. She used to say, true friends are like diamonds, special and rare. Fake friends are like autumn leaves scattered everywhere. And
Yeah,
there's always snakes in the grass, always. So, I think you're honestly, I'm not going to tell you what to do. It's obviously you do what you want to do, but it's best to just stick to yourself and
yeah,
do what you're doing and ignore everybody else because people just want to bring you down and it is
yeah.
what it is.
That um, I think you and I are very much in agreement about this. Like as far as the abuse of Sebastian and the things that we see that are just wrong and don't understand, and it's not, and people want to tell you you're crazy for it or you're making a conspiracy out of it. It's like, no, law enforcement is acting weird. I'm not crazy about this. Okay,
Mhm.
it's not, there's something wrong here.
Yeah.
uh, and if it's just a lack of resources and ego, that's preventing them from getting the correcting the mistakes they made or getting more help, whatever it is. It may not be anything nefarious or anything like that, but there's definitely something wrong. And as far as Sebastian's, I cannot prove, I'm not investigating this case. I can't prove what happened um, the night he went missing. But I can tell you there, with everything in my heart, I believe he was abused in that home. And I made it clear more
I do
than once
too.
on Jay's live, and I hope people heard it, that I believe that he was being abused in the
I'm
home
with
of
you
the
on that.
Proudfoots. Uh, they they he was, and I said it multiple times in that, and hopefully nothing gets cut out, and you could hear me say it. He was being abused. You can't do this. And they said, "How do you know he called him that? How do you know he did this?" And I kept saying, "Well, Chris Proudfoot said it." And they'd
Yeah,
say, "Well, you know." I mean, they were even questioning things that we all heard Chris Proudfoot say,
exactly.
trying to make you feel like you're crazy for that, saying that. It's like, well, that's abuse. Oh, you're talking about the belt incident? Well, that's not abuse. And I said, yes, it is.
It is
According
in
to
my
Tennessee
opinion.
state statute, but it's not just my opinion. It literally is an example. Using a belt is an example that they use in a handbook that they give in my research, that they give to families involved in CPS cases of things that you shouldn't do when
Yeah.
you are in. They give two things when you're in a CPS case in the state of Tennessee in the instructions. One is, while you're under investigation, you are not to hit your child during
Hmm.
the investigation. And they give examples of abuse, understanding the difference between abuse and discipline, to try to make parents aware. And they literally, in the state of Tennessee, used an example of a belt in the handbook that they give to parents who are currently in court with CPS cases, to say it shows intention to inflict pain using an implement. And that is the difference between abuse and corporal punishment.
Yeah.
Um,
A lot of people look at it, they're like, "Oh, back in the day, shit, parents used to take belts to their kids all the time." And it's like, yeah, I don't it's
yeah,
still
and back in
abuse.
the day, my parents never made me wear a seatbelt in the car, but laws change,
Right. Right.
and
And
the
in
law
my
has
opinion,
changed.
I would never take a belt to any of my kids. Like, and
No,
you know, everything that I have said, I have gotten from Chris and from Katie.
right.
You
It's
know,
their own actions and inactions. I mean, the
right.
way they spoke about him, what they said themselves. Chris, saying he hit Sebastian with the belt under Tennessee statutes is child abuse. And then when you factor in this is an autistic child and his frustration with Sebastian's inability to change despite his severe discipline was frustrating to Chris. And which was one of the reasons why autistic children are so vulnerable to abuse, because parents say, you're not listening, you're
Right.
not changing, you're
Yeah.
not doing it differently. And it's because they have a disability which keeps them from doing it differently. You
Mhm.
have to work with them. And even with lots of therapies, guess what? They're always going to be autistic. There's no cure currently. So you have to show more patience than um, even most parents have to show. And then you have a person like Chris Proudfoot who has a history of even hitting neurotypical kids or women. Um, it's a recipe for disaster, putting a child like Sebastian who has a disability that will keep him from, you know, uh, changing the way
Mhm.
Chris wanted him to change, I
Right.
believe. Uh,
Right.
I'm sure it. it never would register with him. It's like he's still doing these things I tell him not to do. He's still doing things the wrong way.
Yeah.
Um, he felt. I just feel so terrible when I think about Sebastian's life in that house.
Yeah. I'm, yeah, I'm right there with you. I think he went through a lot in that house. I
And
think at
I
the
don't know
hands
we'll ever
of
get a
Chris.
conviction for that. But I tell you this, I said I won't rest till there's a conviction for the abuse that he suffered in his life, because that we know about. And I don't know what happened to him exactly, nor does anybody else can prove it 100% at this point. But I know he was abused, based on
Mhm.
their own words, their own actions. And it's nobody in the world is going to convince me that I should feel sorry for a mom who's not looking for her child.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't feel sorry because her inactions and choosing her husband all the time over her son is what I have a problem with.
Yeah,
Her not
that's
sticking up for her son and letting Chris hit him, letting Chris talk to him the way he did, letting Chris treat him the way he did. That's not okay with me.
right. I mean, they're citing on Jay's channel, they were citing things about Seth, right? That uh it was, seemed so upsetting to them and Katie, right, of things Seth did. Meanwhile, she sat there in interviews next to Chris as he described doing things that she cited in a divorce thing that she called abusive when Seth did it, but sat there silently as Chris described doing it publicly, on a public interview,
Yeah.
doing it to Sebastian. Why was it now? Why now is it okay that that happened? Why now is it not abuse, but it was abuse?
Right.
When you claimed Seth did something similar, and it's just bad. But I don't know. I don't know if I'm gonna. And people said, oh, the other thing is they said today. I think Cleta said, "You're just here for attention and to get more people to watch you, and that's what you're doing," and everything like that. I was like, "Well, that is not true.
Mhm.
It's just not true. I'm trying to do my best. I don't have to do this stuff, and um, but then I always think about like with it, like every moment this weekend, I felt like stopping. I'm sorry for crying, but I was thinking like, who's gonna talk about this stuff with autism and Sebastian explain it? I mean, if there was someone else who would come on and just
Yeah.
explain some of the things, I would feel more comfortable stepping away.
I
But
don't, I mean, I don't think you should let others stop you from doing what you want to do. But I mean, I understand obviously where you're coming from, but I just don't want you don't stop. If you want to stop, stop, but don't stop because they want you to stop. You know what I mean?
yeah, I know it's so hard. It's
Because
so
you do
hard, and
stand
I
up.
know
You
people are
are
mad
here.
at me today. I don't
You
know.
are here for Sebastian.
I'm not perfect, you know. Oh, I was saying, right now, part of what I do and things, like I said, I'm not a true crime creator, and in part of my autism awareness and just who I am is I do share things about my life, and I've been doing it for 2.5 years now through TikTok and now YouTube. Um, People who are my friends, they don't criticize me for um talking about my kids. The people who are, you know, not my friends or not supportive criticize me for that. The people who are friends are say that they're with me on this roller coaster. Um, yeah, MCOS has said that to
Oh,
me
sorry.
before.
Oh
I
God.
say let me worry about me, okay,
Mhm. Yep.
and let me take care of me. But the people who are my friends don't tell me leave. you know, they tell me, we're here for you, and if I took time off, right, and I uh, whatever, from this because other people make the judgment that this is not good for me or I'm not stable or whatever. The problems I have in my life, my family has that we're dealing with right now. Spencer graduating, he's turning 21. They can go to school in New Jersey till they're 21. And then you're out of public school. Everything that he's known in his life in terms of stability of school, the teachers,
Hmm.
is all coming to an end. And you have to find some other type of programs, and he was just rejected from an excellent one. Um, Not because of something he did wrong, but because for every opening in a program like that, there's 100 kids vying for it. And he was actually a finalist. It's something to be proud of that it got down from like probably 100 people who applied for that that one spot that was available at this really excellent program. He got down to like the last 5 people they were considering, and they chose someone else. It's not because we did something wrong or he did something wrong. It's just because somebody else was a better fit, or somebody else had more funding from Medicaid. He didn't get the top funding. He Someone else might he there's $70,000 less that he got than was the top amount he could have gotten. And they might have accepted the person who had the $70,000 more a year of funding than Spencer. That could be a reason. Just, and so people who are really care, they're with you and they follow you through this, roller coaster of events that happen in the life of somebody with profound autism and their parents and their families. Because if I go away, you know, when I come back, he's still going to be profoundly autistic and he's still going to outlive me.
Hmm.
It, that never changes, and it's always a worry. So go away and do what? There's no cure. It's not going to change the situation that my family is in, that I have to worry about making sure that you know, um, we've prepared him and have set up uh, a situation where he will be cared for, even when we're no longer here to care for him.
Right.
And if you want to be understanding, be supportive. Don't tell me to go away. The people who are nice and kind, they become invested in the story of Spencer and love him and think of him as a whole human being who's to be cared of, not to be hidden, and
Yeah.
root for him and pray for us that things work out.
Yeah, babe, I'm almost done. Right.
Okay, I'll let you go.
Well,
So it's
okay.
not,
I
it's
hope
not,
I hope it
yeah.
helped.
Oh my God, it did. And sorry for getting so upset, but
It's all right.
you've been very kind and sweet. And I don't know how many people did you have here today. I'm sure you have a bit more watching and criticizing afterwards, and I apologize for any of that you get. But I thank you for the opportunity and for reaching out and allowing me to speak and always being kind and
You're welcome.
uh,
I hope
fighting
the
for
rest
Sebastian.
I hope it gets better for you.
I do too. I do too. I don't know. I don't know why. I guess because of who I am and allowing people to see me and whatever. I don't know what I did wrong exactly, but I guess I did a lot wrong.
Um,
I know I got to thicken my skin, but it's not going to change my situation.
Marley G wanted to say, I love you, Julie. Your cause is beautiful, and we need to have you speaking on behalf of the autistic children who can't speak for themselves. Don't let the bullies in. We don't need them to win.
I love you, Marley, too, and I do want to say to CNY family, in case you don't know, there is a very large percentage of the people who follow me on YouTube, not just TikTok, but on YouTube, who themselves have a family member who is impacted by autism. There's a large number of people who are invested in the case of Sebastian Rogers, who uh, have somebody in their family who's autistic. And it's one of the reasons that I think this case has gotten as much attention as it has, is because
Mhm.
of the autism community out there who very much cares about the outcome of this case.
Yeah.
So we, always be aware that when we're talking about autism, which is why Dolly's show is so gross, is that you very well may be talking to people who have a child or a niece or a grandchild who is autistic, because there is a high interest in this case from families, autism families
Yeah.
throughout the United States and the world. I can't tell you how many people in your chat probably right now have somebody in their family who's autistic.
Mhm. Yep.
Thank you, Marley. You're the best.
All
Really
right.
nice. And if you subscribe to me and haven't subscribed to the CNY family, please do so. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. It helps that algorithm, as I've learned,
Oh,
right?
thank
And
you.
you're you're not just kind, but you're smart and independent, and somebody to be respected. And I appreciate everything.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And
Thank you.
I hope everything gets better for you and you just gotta
Thank.
block it all out.
Yeah, it was a bad week. It was a bad week, but it's
Yeah.
over, and another day tomorrow. So
Right.
thanks
Tomorrow is
again,
a new day.
friend. Thank you,
All right.
friend.
You're
I
welcome.
appreciate it. Bye bye.
Bye. All right, you guys. I am going to end this one here. Thank you guys so much for coming and showing your support. Really appreciate it. I know this wasn't a normal thing that I do. It wasn't a normal video for me, normal live, but I, just wanted to try to help her. So I appreciate you guys being here. I'm going to end this one here. Please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so, and consider becoming a member and joining the family. I love you guys. Stay strong, stay healthy, stay safe. Keep asking those hard questions. Keep spreading that light. And I'll see you all next time.